And may I say good evening to each and every one of you, and welcome to the Township of Douro-Dummer and our council meeting here on the 2nd of March. A reminder to everyone that this meeting is being presented live on our YouTube channel and is being recorded as well for those of you watching in the future. So all of members of council, you know the drill. We will do our very best to conduct this meeting the way we normally would in our council chambers. But COVID-19, of course, has forced us to be a little bit different. So we hope everyone will be patient with us. I'd like to call the roll. Members of council who are here, if you could put your hand in the air. First of all, Deputy Mayor Carl Moher is here.
Yep.
Carl, hi, welcome.
Hi.
Councillor Watt.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Landsman. And Councillor Watson. Thank you very much. And I'm J. Murray Jones, your mayor, and we will get our meeting underway. Also with us is our temporary CAO, Martina Chait-Hartwick. Martina is there as well. Our manager of public works, Jake Condon. Jake is somewhere in the background. And our administrative people, Vanessa Sweeting and Nicole Zenner, are also there pushing the buttons. And we will hear from staff when we need to at the appropriate time. So thank you all very much. I will officially call the meeting to order. And we respectfully acknowledge that we're on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga-Nishnawbe, and we offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care and the teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Might we also take just a moment to salute the memory of the late Murray Waitung of Curve Lake. Murray is a man who has done many, many things, and the bottom line, he's made this entire region a better place in his 99 years. Our sympathy goes out to the late Murray Waitung and his family and many friends. Please all join us for a moment of silence. Thank you all very much. Any members of council, if you have a pecuniary interest with any of the matters that we're dealing with tonight, please raise your hand and state what your conflict is. Heather, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am declaring a pecuniary interest on item 13.2, an indirect conflict due to the fact that I hold controlling interest in a company that is engaged with the report.
Thank you very much for that. For the record, Councillor Watson will be leaving the Zoom meeting when that item is discussed. A motion, please, to adopt the agenda. Carl, did you have a
Yes, I just wanted to have you recognize our new CAO is on the call as well.
that will be handled in due course.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Our agenda for March 2nd, a motion, please, to adopt that agenda. Councillor Watt, Councillor Landsman, all in favor? That motion is approved. The minutes of the 16th of February, the last time we were together. A motion, please, to receive and adopt those minutes. Councillor Landsman, Councillor Watt, all in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Any business arising out of the minutes? Okay, seeing no hand. With your permission, we're going to move up item 11.4 on our agenda, and that is a bylaw, and it's a very important bylaw, number 2021-22, and that is to officially appoint Douro-Dummer's brand new CAO. Alana Arthurs, you'll see Alana now on the screen, and the bylaw Alana is going to make you all ours, just so you know. I would like a motion, please, to pass that bylaw. Deputy Mayor Moher and seconded by Councillor Watson. Is there any discussion?
Welcome, Alana.
All in favor? All opposed? Don't you dare. Alana, I know I didn't give you any great warning, but you are officially now the CAO of the Township of Douro-Dummer. And there haven't been a whole lot in the history of our township, to be quite honest. So you're joining a real good crew. If you'd like to say a few words, I know we're going to be hearing from you a lot in the weeks ahead. So let's turn it over to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a great appreciation to council and going through the process and selecting me as your new CAO. I've had a little bit of time to chat with Martina and just sort of get brought up to speed. And I'm very much looking forward to the positive changes that we can make in Douro-Dummer and the fact that you've entrusted me to come through and lead your team. So I'm very excited to start. It feels like the time has gone by so quickly since we made the decision and it's almost there. So as of next Monday, I'm very, very much looking forward to joining your team. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alana. And we got a lot of things for you to do. So welcome to Douro-Dummer. I know you're probably going to pay attention in the background a little bit to get up to speed on what it is we're talking about, but we're delighted to have you in the family, and we hope everyone gets to meet you in person very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that bylaw is now officially passed, and we have a new CAO. We move ahead to delegations, petitions, presentations, and public meetings. Item 8.1 is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment, and please note that our attendees will be muted until Martina has had the opportunity to provide the overview of the application. So I would like a motion, please, to open the public meeting. Councillor Landsman and Councillor Moher. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. The public meeting is now officially open. Okay, I will officially ask Martina to give us a review of this meeting, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a zoning bylaw application R1020 for Conley. That's Mark and Sandra. And I believe Sandy is on the line with us now, and the agent is Kevin Duguay. He's also with us. The legal description of the property is Concession 4, Part 26, also known as 374 Thelgar Road in the Douro Ward. Mr. and Mrs. Conley have applied for a zoning bylaw amendment to amend the zoning in the parcel of land in Concession 4, Part 26. The purpose of the application is to allow for the removal of the existing cottage and to erect a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. The land in question is currently zoned as residential zone. The zoning bylaw amendment application is seeking to rezone the property to a special district to recognize the current reduced water yard setback, as well as increase the lot coverage to permit the construction of the new dwelling. It will also limit further development on the site. In support of this application, the following documents were submitted: a stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment completed by Northeastern Archaeological Associates, dated December 16th, 2020. A planning report completed by Kevin Duguay, dated December 15th, 2020, and amended January 19th, 2021. And an assessment of the current structure completed by MJ Davenport and Associates, dated January 20th, 2021. The application is in conformity with the provincial policy statement and the official plan. The recommendation from staff is that the application be approved, but I believe Kevin and or Sandy would like to speak to it, and I do have some comments to read as well. We received a comment from Mike Dolby. He's a neighbor. He says he has no concerns with the application. We've also received a comment from the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority. They state that it is the opinion of the Otonabee Conservation Authority that the application is consistent with Section 3.1 related to natural hazards of the provincial policy statement. Given the formal submission of this planting plan, it is the opinion of the Conservation Authority that the application is consistent with Sections 2.1 referring to natural heritage, and 2.2, referring to water, of the provincial policy statement and conforms with section 4.2.45B and C of the growth plan. Permits for this project will be required from the Conservation Authority, and this application has no effect on source water drinking.
Okay, thank you very much, Martina. Now, the normal process, of course, for these public meetings is to give the applicant or their representative the opportunity to speak to us. And it's also the opportunity for anyone else who would like to speak for or against this application. So we handle these meetings the same way in a consistent and fair manner to the best of our ability. So to start off with, Sandy, you are the applicant. I'm assuming that Kevin Dugay is your agent. He's not just here because he had a slow night. Kevin, I will let you represent the property owner, and we are more than happy to hear you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mayor Jones, and to Elena Arthurs. Welcome in your newly minted capacity as CAO, and to Martina, I'd like to thank you for your assistance in your interim capacity while the selection for the full-time new CAO was made. The application is straightforward. We have an existing small cottage that's located amongst a series of waterfront properties. Structurally, we've had a report as prepared by Mike Davenport indicating that the building really isn't suitable for ongoing use, and thus a replacement is contemplated. The replacement structure is modest in size, in keeping with the established fabric of land use in this waterfront setting. And as we've heard from Orca, Matt Wilkinson was working with Laurie Young as the designer, and Laurie Young with myself, working on an appropriate tree vegetation planting scheme that strikes a balance between Orca's interest in terms of natural heritage and Sandy's interest so that they can enjoy their property in a view of the waterfront. The archaeological assessment also indicated there were no issues or assets of evidence on the property. Martina was kind enough to provide to me prior to the meeting the draft bylaw, which I have reviewed, and I would say I can confirm for council's benefit that I've reviewed the bylaw and have no issues with respect to its writing and its intent. And I would confirm from my planning report that I had concluded that the application was consistent with the 2020 PPS, in conformity with the 2020 growth plan, meeting the policies of the county and the lower tier municipal official plan, generally in keeping with the zoning bylaw. We have to massage some of the regulations, but they're minor in nature. And lastly, represents good planning. And I'd be willing to respond to any questions on behalf of Sandy. And Sandy, nice to see you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. You don't need to be socializing right now. We're down to business.
No, I just...
Okay, good. Sandy, is there anything you'd like to add? You are the property owner. If you'd like to add anything at all, you're more than welcome to. You're muted, Sandy. No, still.
I think everything Kevin said is just fine.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much. Members of council, if there's anyone would like to ask any questions for clarity on what you've heard from Martina or from Kevin, now is the time to do that. Go ahead, Councillor Watt.
Not a question, more just a comment, and it's one of appreciation. Part of the ongoing opening there with Martina was a letter from a neighbor. We have stressed that over and over again, and we can't stress it enough that, being in good with your neighbors when you're going about a process like this really, really helps our committees and our council to make a decision. So thank you very much for that.
Is there any member of council who has a question on the technical details? Seeing none, is there anyone would like to speak against the application? This is the opportunity for anyone to speak against. Okay. Seeing no hands, I want to thank Kevin and Sandy for producing the facts in a fair and open way. I would like a motion, please, to close the public meeting. Councillor Moher and Councillor Watt. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. We have one more public meeting, and then we will be addressing potentially the two bylaws that will deal with the matters in our public meeting. So you can hide your video or go away or whatever, and very soon you'll be hearing council's decision. Okay, thank you. Another public meeting is now to be underway. And this is a zoning bylaw amendment. I'm going to ask for a motion to go into that meeting, please. Councillor Landsman, Councillor Watson. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. We are now in a public meeting. I will ask Martina, please, to give us the background on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is zoning bylaw application RO121. It's for Doug Mundell. The agent was Marcel Mundell. They're not on the call with us this evening. The property is located at part lot 14 and 15, concession 2, 1105 County Road 4, but it actually fronts onto Ironwoods Drive in the Dummer ward. Mr. Mundell has applied for a zoning bylaw amendment in order to rezone portions of the subject lands from rural RU to environmental conservation EC and hamlet residential HR zones. This amendment is required as a condition of the consent for the severance of a residential lot, B3920, to prohibit construction and/or site alteration within the hydrological features, the wet depression and the intermediate watercourse, and their associated vegetative protective zones on both the severed and retained parcels, as identified in the environmental impact study completed by Cambium Inc., dated August 10th, 2019. The application is in conformity with the provincial policy statement and reflects, and has no evidence of conflicts with the growth plan. It's also in conformity with the official plan. Residential uses are encouraged in the hamlet designation. The requested zoning bylaw amendment is required in order to meet the conditions of severance to prohibit construction and/or site alteration. And it will also limit the uses in the EC zone to those appropriate to sensitive features and their associated vegetative protective zones. The recommendation that's before you from staff is that this bylaw be approved. As Mr. and Mrs. Mundell are not here, I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have about the facts before you. I've also received two comments. One is from Enbridge Gas. They state that they have no objections to the proposed application. However, they hold the right to amend their conditions in the future. And we also have a letter from the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority. They state the following. That is the opinion of the Conservation Authority that the application is consistent with section 3.1 of the provincial policy statement. It's the opinion of the Conservation Authority that the application is consistent with sections 2.1 referring to natural heritage and 2.2 referring to water of the provincial policy statement and conforms to section 4.2.4 of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Permits from the Conservation Authority are required for this project, and this project is not located within an area that is subject to policies contained in the source water protection zone. Those are the comments we have.
Thank you. And no other comments from neighbors, etc.
Nope, just these two.
Any questions for clarity by members of council on the application itself? Okay, is there anyone signed into our Zoom who would like to speak for or against this application? Last call. Okay, thank you very much for that. I would like a motion then to end the public meeting, please. Councillor Landsman and Deputy Mayor Moher, all in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Okay, with council's permission then, I would like to move ahead the bylaws. Bylaw 2021-19 is for Sandy Conley that we just heard of, and 2021-20 is for the Mundell application. Could I have a motion, please, for 2021-19, first of all, to approve that bylaw? Councillor Watson and Councillor Watts, all in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Now bylaw 2021-20 for Mundell, Deputy Mayor Moher and Councillor Landsman, all in favor?
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
believe Councillor Moher, sorry, Deputy Mayor Moher was trying to make a comment.
Were you trying to ask a question? Sorry, Carl.
Just a comment, this application went through the Committee of Planning, and the applicant went through some extensive design, redesign, and so on. So I feel quite confident that we've got the right fit for this property. So fully supported the application.
Okay, the motion's on the floor. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Okay, thank you very much. Item 8.3 is a delegation at tonight's meeting, and our normal procedure is we do allow our procedural bylaw is 10 minutes for a delegation. Amanda Warren, a planner from the county, is on board with us. Is that correct? Is that correct, Martina?
That is correct.
To answer any questions or offer some definition to what we are going to be hearing. So Martina, I will call on you to introduce our delegation, please.
So the delegation that's before you is from Grant Greenwood. He's here to address council along with his daughter, Tara Greenwood, about a zoning, the zoning on their property and a request that they have. So I will leave it to them to explain it to you in detail.
Okay, folks, thank you very much and welcome to our council meeting. If you could try your best to adhere to the 10-minute limit, we would appreciate it. So go ahead. Thank you.
He needs to unmute. He probably doesn't know how.
Did that work?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, Grant, we can hear you.
Okay, I don't think that my internet connection is very good. And I expect that if I try to do the video, it'll drop out. So I just wanted to pop in and say hello on the video. And then I would like to go back and just talk to you in the vocal. So if that's okay with you, and if I can figure out how, I will cancel my, I assume it is done now. Okay. Good evening, council members, and thanks for allowing me to address you this evening. I would like to be there in person, but I fully understand the position that this pandemic has put us in. My purpose in addressing you tonight is to ask for your assistance in resolving what I consider to be an unfair and unequitable situation that has arisen as a result of previously zoning our properties to Special District, SD. To give you a little history, in 2003, my brother-in-law and my wife and I had adjoining properties, 1320 and 1325 Trappers Lane on Stony Lake. As there was a significant discrepancy in the lake frontages of the two properties, I made a request to the township to have the adjoining property line adjusted in order to make the lot frontages more similar in size. In order to accomplish this, it was required that the small slice of property be severed from the one lot and transferred to the other. The severance was approved, but I was advised that in order to finalize this process, the two properties would have to be zoned as special districts. I've attached a copy of the file, Deco/Greenwood, which explains the zoning bylaw amendment. It states, The effect of this bylaw is to rezone the parcels to 2 special zones, to recognize the deficiencies in the lot frontages of the subject properties, and to recognize and bring into compliance all existing structures, as well as an addition proposed by Mr. and Mrs. Greenwood. This request was discussed with Linda Moore at the township office, and she confirmed that, as stated, this would bring the properties into compliance. When I specifically asked, she stated that she could not see any apparent downside to doing this, and that it could be advantageous as we would now be recognized as being in compliance, whereas the other neighboring LSR zone properties would not. My understanding of the township policy in effect at that time, 2003, was that all of the LSR zone properties, such as ours, were grandfathered to allow the owners to build on their currently existing footprints. I therefore agreed to these similar conditions of SD zoning, although I really was given no other alternative. We subsequently attended the township council meeting for approval of these changes. I know this is a little late, but I would like to thank Murray Jones, who was chairing the meeting that evening, for arranging to deal with this item first on the agenda. The zoning bylaw motion was approved and we were out of the meeting within 10 minutes. The subject properties were subsequently rezoned and registered as SD 139 and SD 140 respectively. For some reason, not known to me, these properties are now being referred to as SD 133 and SD 134. Now, I did attach with you a map with the file Decove/Greenwood, which I previously referred to. It shows that the subject properties there, if you just look at it where it's marked, are surrounded by LSR zone properties. I've also attached the current layout from the county of Peterborough. And if you look at that where it says Stony Lake on the lake, and this directly below on the shoreline is the same area. And I just want to point out that by comparison, this similarly shows that 70 years later, we are still the only properties in the vicinity that are not zoned LSR. Now, moving forward 7 years from the time of our rezoning, the revised 2010 township bylaws, specifically section 3.28, addresses non-complying buildings or structures. These bylaws clearly reflect a change in the policy as understood in 2003, as they now allow a controlled expansion to non-conforming buildings and structures. We are currently requesting that these same policy changes be allowed to apply to our properties so they can receive equal treatment. We have been advised that 3.28 does not apply to our property because, quote, all of our sections 3.28 and 3.29 only apply to non-conforming buildings and structures. As this property was brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw when the special district was approved, the Greenwoods cannot use these provisions. Yes, you heard that correctly. The change in policy to allow expansion of lakeshore buildings only applies to non-compliant and cannot be applied to properties that have been brought into compliance. This somehow does not seem right or fair. I would further like to read you paragraph 3.28.1 from the same bylaw, which says, where a building or structure which lawfully existed on a lot as of the date of the passing of this bylaw and having less than the minimum frontage and or area, or having less than the minimum setback and or yard or any other provision required by this bylaw, the said building or structure shall be deemed to comply with this bylaw with respect to any deficiencies. And further, The said building or structure may be enlarged, reconstructed, repaired, altered, or renovated, provided that, then there are conditions that apply. I just want to go back to the section in there that deals with deficiencies and states, the said building or structure shall be deemed to comply with this bylaw with respect to any deficiency or deficiencies. So this is saying that the non-complying buildings are deemed to comply, yet at the same time, we've been told that because the ST zoning already is in compliance, that 3.28 can't be applied. I find it very difficult to understand why a property that was zoned to legally comply 7 years previously would receive less favorable treatment than a property which now must be deemed to comply in order to have the bylaw applied. I just don't feel that we are being treated fairly, and believe that when this bylaw was put into effect, that it failed to recognize our situation. But just let me summarize this. In 2003, a request was made to have the property line adjusted between our two adjacent properties. This precipitated a request from the township to have the two properties changed from LSR zoning to SD zoning, the effect of which was to recognize the deficiencies in lot frontages and to bring into compliance all existing structures. Recognizing that the existing building policy in 2003 for non-conforming property zone LSR was to allow future construction on the established footprint of the buildings, and after discussion with the township and having been advised that there was no foreseeable downside in this rezoning, the application was processed. Subsequently, in 2010, the zoning bylaws were amended to allow additional expansion of non-conforming buildings on LSR zone property. This clearly indicates that there had been a change in the building policy since the zoning of our properties in 2003. We are being advised that we are not allowed to receive the benefits from the changes shown in 3.28, as they only apply to non-conforming buildings and structures. Because of the previous rezoning of our properties that brought them into compliance, we are currently not being allowed to apply the same rules as our neighboring non-conforming properties. My daughter, who has recently purchased one of the properties, is currently being told that in order for these same conditions to apply to her property, it will be necessary to go through a lengthy, complex, and expensive process with no certainty that they will be allowed. I am here today asking for council's assistance in helping to correct this situation. We are asking that council initiate the process, possibly a bylaw amendment, that would allow our previously zoned SD properties to retain the same benefits as non-conforming LSR properties and be allowed to apply the conditions as set out in bylaw 3.28. We are not asking for any preferential treatment, but are only asking to be treated fairly and to be allowed the same benefits as the other properties. However, we need your assistance to accomplish this. I want to thank you for your time tonight and for giving me the opportunity to explain our position. So,
Okay, Grant, I want to thank you for a very detailed presentation. It's great to hear detail like this coming from you, and we appreciate it. And these matters are certainly drenched in all kinds of planning technicalities that I know are hard for people to get their head around, including members of council. Thank you for that. And the last thing this council wants to do is cause red tape and unnecessary expense to anyone. But we do obviously have an obligation to follow planning procedures and provincial rules and regulations, etc. So I'm just saying that as a 30,000-foot comment. I'm going to ask Amanda Warren, before I ask if members of council have any questions, Amanda Warren represents Peterborough County on the Planning Department. Amanda, are you there anywhere? I'm not seeing. There she is. Good. Welcome to Douro-Dummer from wherever you are.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jones. I'm working at home, so if you hear the children screaming, apologies. I don't have too many further comments, but I will reiterate the policy kind of guide outline for council. So the subject property is zoned special district 133, which recognizes the non-compliant frontage and the existing buildings with the site plan that was approved in 2003, as Mr. Greenwood has presented for us. This zoning was as a condition of a consent approval through the County of Peterborough, approved through the County of Peterborough. The condition was put in place by the township of Douro-Dummer in order to recognize those existing non-compliant buildings. Further, so section 3.28 of the township's bylaw, as Mr. Greenwood outlined, does provide expansion provisions for existing non-complying structures. However, since the special district 133 zone brings that property into compliance, that section 3.28 and the expansion rules don't apply to the property. So that we're in a bit of a policy loophole. So I appreciate the it can be confusing, and it is confusing the way these bylaws are written. But as of right now, working back to with the applicant through our pre-consultation meetings, we have agreed to entertain a zoning bylaw amendment that that would allow the proposed expansion on the property.
Ouch, that sounds far too simple. Far too simple. So, Tara and Grant, with that response, what is your view here now?
Well, I'll let Tara address that because she is the one that is planning on doing the building, and she can address the uncertainty of what.
Yeah. Okay.
Here.
Tara, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have had a number of conversations and gotten to a place where we do have some support, as Amanda said, for going forward. I think why we came forward is because even though we have this support, there's still the need to hire a planner, get the studies, go through the application process. So there is cost involved, there is time with that. They're still having to go through all that approval process when no one else in the same like none of our neighbors or anything like that would have to go through the process or that expense or that time. And I think just the other comment was that, I think from what we've heard, we're in a bit of a policy loophole. So this seems like it's a case where maybe the rule isn't meeting the underlying policy objective. And so that's why we weren't sure what the options were, because if the option is to allow these properties to do this expansion and be recognized as complying, then we're already complying. Well, I can't do the same thing.
Okay, no, thank you, Tara. Amanda, did you want to say more? And I'm going to ask Martina from the township's point of view as well.
And
Go ahead, Amanda.
Nothing further, Mayor Jones. Thanks.
No, okay. No, thank you. Now, Martina, after hearing all this, and as I said before, we never want to put anyone through things like this that we don't need to. I think we all know that. But we're in the world of planning. Martina, can you give the township's perspective on this and perhaps what some of our options are?
Very good. So through you, Mr. Mayor, you're correct. The township and the Greenwoods have worked on this project for quite a bit. We've been discussing it, I believe, since October of 2020. And so we've really gone over all of the options that are available to Tara and her family. So option number one for Tara, through you, Mr. Mayor, is that she could rebuild her existing cottage as it is today. and she would be able to add a second story to it. That could all be done without planning. It would just be a straight building permit application. If she would like to expand the cottage beyond the current footprint that is part of the zoning bylaw that's attached to her property, she will need to complete a zoning bylaw amendment. I believe there is a study that is required. It would be in the notes from our pre-consultation meeting. And that would be a zoning bylaw amendment similar to the ones we've heard earlier today. The largest concern that the township originally had when we were discussing this project is that it may need an official plan amendment. Because the proposals that are before us from Tara and Grant do not get any closer to the water, the township and the county do not need an official plan amendment to move this forward. It would just be a straight zoning bylaw amendment. As to section 3.28 in our zoning bylaw, that amendment or that clause in the bylaw was actually part of the 2002 bylaw, and I'm not quite sure if it was in the bylaw subsequent or prior to that as well. So that the ability to expand that 25% for non-conforming structures has been in our books for quite a long time, prior to the severance that was completed.
Okay, members of council, I'm sure you have questions that you've got written down over this, and we need a way to move forward and try to do our best to get this looked at. Carl, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, the Greenwoods, for your input. As mentioned by our mayor, we don't want to get into red tape here that's going to cause all kinds of issues, but just before I make maybe a resolution or a draft resolution is, through you, Mr. Mayor, would a committee of adjustment application not do if the expansion of the footprint was required, rather than a full zoning application?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Moher, this application would not qualify for a minor variance because it will not meet the 4 tests.
Okay. Okay, I'm not ready tonight to make a decision on this one way or the other. I'm just wondering if staff could relook at everything going on here to see if we can't get a resolution here that's fair and reasonable, and maybe at our next meeting or maybe our second next meeting, bring something back that hopefully we can sign off on and move forward with. That would be my resolution if somebody were to second it.
To look at the historical situation here, precedents, things, reach out and try to find a way to deal with this. Is anyone going to second that motion that Carl made? Sheila, that motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Watt.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jones. Through you, just more on what Deputy Mayor Moher had to say. It is a tricky situation, and you're right too. We don't want to create hardship for somebody. If we actually have this, it's a loophole that we unforeseen created, kind of like that. I think between the county and staff, I think we could, possibly work with the Greenwoods to come up with a viable solution that's going to make everybody happy and not try and break the bank.
That's exactly what Carl's motion is trying to do. You're right.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm sure the Greenwoods would like us to push a button and make this go away, and believe me, some of us would like to too, I can assure you. But that obviously is not going to happen, but the game is still going on, and let's hope we can hit a home run at some point. The Blue Jays just started. That's why that's on my mind. Sorry. We're going to call for a vote on the motion, please. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved, and we're still working on it. And I thank the Greenwoods very much for your delegation. Thank you for coming. Martina, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if council would be willing to pass a motion for me to ask the county planning staff, as they are registered planners, to produce a report for us
That'd be good.
to look at this issue and any impacts it would have on the wider community.
Excellent. Carl, you make that motion?
By all means.
Sheila, you'll second it. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Okay, thank you very much. You're always welcome here at our council meeting. I hope maybe for better conditions next time, but I hope everything works out. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you. And what you're proposing is, I guess, basically what I was asking for is that we're treated fairly and
Look at it.
we
Yep.
should be allowed to apply 3.28.
Thank you very, very much for coming. Okay, moving right ahead now, I'll take a motion to officially receive the delegation and the presentation that entailed. Councillor Landsman, Councillor Watson. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. We move over to other business and staff reports. Martina, the subject is a new temporary treasurer recruitment. It all adds up again. So what do we do?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as council is aware, our temporary treasurer recently submitted his resignation and will be concluding his employment with the township on March 12th. With the aid of our temporary treasurer, we've made great progress on task completion and meeting the township's statutory and fiduciary responsibilities. He's been an asset to our team and we appreciate the work he's done. Echoing the report requesting assistance for the finance department, previously dated September 4th, 2020, I'm suggesting that staff be instructed to immediately start a recruitment process for a new temporary treasurer to assume the position for a minimum of a 6-month period with an option for the township to extend the position if needed. This time span will allow the successful candidate to further the implementation of the recommendations for the service delivery review and organizational review, and will continue to bring the department up to date with tasks and further allow the incoming CAO to make any changes that she sees fit. For the hiring position for this committee, I'm recommending that it be comprised of a member of council, a member of the senior management team, and either myself or the incoming CAO, depending on the timelines. The small committee size will allow for efficiency and a quick turnaround to find a suitable candidate. That's the recommendation that's before you, as well as to allow this process to take place.
And we got to get going on this. We also have a budget to deal with, and we need a treasurer with their hand on the vault. So that is exactly what we need to do post haste. Heather, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I will move the recommendation that's before us this evening and certainly pass along my thanks and appreciation to Paul, our interim treasurer, for the work that he's done thus far and his commitment to help us through the budget process going forward. But I agree fully that we need to begin the recruitment process right away. So I'll make that motion.
You're dead on. Carl, you'll second that motion? Carl, you're muted.
Most definitely.
Most definitely. Okay, let's call for the vote. Councillor Watt, comment?
Just a quick question. I know you did a great job last time, the group to recruit Paul, and I don't know whether there was someone in that pool that could save us time that we may, a second choice kind of thing that would be just as good to do it, or, is it going to save time, or do we just go through this process? Just curiosity.
Oh, there's nothing really. I think we need to start from scratch and get a new pool coming in. Yeah. Okay, that motion is on the floor to get going with it right away, and we'll have a member of council on the committee. We'll decide on that once you get things going, okay? All in favor? All opposed? That motion's approved. Let's get on it very quickly. Jake, you are here. Sorry, Martina, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm just thinking to efficiency and being able to move forward quickly. Would it be possible for council to appoint a council member to this committee today? So I don't have to bring it back at the next meeting?
Okay, well, I'm more than happy to be on it again as I was last time, if that's what you want.
Yep.
Okay. A motion then, Tom?
Yes, I'll make a motion to appoint Mayor Jones to the committee with the staff recommendations.
Second, Carl?
Yep.
All in favor?
All in favor.
All opposed? Okay. That's it. Martina, you will be stuck with me on this one.
Very good, thank you.
Jake, you're still hiding in the back room there somewhere? There he is. Good. As we stare out your window. Good. No, it's you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, gravel crushing and haulage. Go ahead, Jake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The township currently has approximately 8,000 tons from a previous contract that still requires crushing. The contractor has offered to extend the current gravel contract to fulfill our 2021 gravel crushing and haulage needs. The 2020 cost to crush and stockpile gravel was at a rate of $3.90. The proposed cost will be $4 for the 2021 crushing. If there's any further excavation outside of the original contract, this would be over and above. This would consist of possibility of using an excavator or bulldozer on site to loosen some of the material for the contractor to crush a little quicker. I've also included the average pricing for 2021 haulage. It's a little hard to get a definite price on this due to the final budget and the final projects that are going to take place in 2021. All the crushing will be occurring out of the 6-line pit, which is a tried and true gravel resource. I would like to ask council to clarify that they would like to continue the use of 3/4 inch gravel for the 2021 season as opposed to 5/8. This option will meet our needs for 2021 season, and regular aggregate testing will also be done to ensure quality materials are produced. The quantities will be adjusted depending on the outcome of the final budget. This approval will allow the contractor to continue crushing while on site and complete the 2021 gravel crushing. The recommendation before you is that the Public Works report dated Public Works Report 2021-08 regarding gravel crushing and haulage be received, and that council hereby grants approval to extend the 2020 gravel crushing, stockpile, and haulage contract to Drain Brothers. The 2021 gravel budget will adequately cover all costs.
Okay, right to the point, Jake. Thank you. That's just what we like. Any questions of that report? Heather, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. Jake, I know last year we had some challenges with the contractor on site and timing and trying to get the work complete on time. Are we foreseeing any challenges in 2021 going forward if we're able to make this approval this evening?
I don't foresee any challenges. That kind of came up with, it wasn't all the contractors doing with the delays. It was partially due to the change of site on the townships from the Edwards pit to the 6th line. So we can't lay blame on the contractor for all of that. So I don't see any issues coming forward.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Carl, and then Sheila.
I would move the recommendation with thanks, Jake. Thanks for your leadership.
Sheila, are you going to second that?
Yes, but I still have one short question. Yes, I will second it. Jake, you just asked a few minutes ago, did council want to continue 3/4 gravel as opposed to 5/8? Was that something that you got an answer to?
No, that's right. I'd like council to clarify that they'd like to continue with the use of 3/4, or whether they would like to revert back to 5/8 gravel.
What is your feeling on it?
I feel that we could revert back to 5/8 now that we have, we know this gravel resource has been used for years. We haven't had any issues with it. I don't foresee any issues, but I'd like to leave that up to council to decide, because they have made the decision to change to 3/4.
So it's not the same gravel that maybe causes some problems here and there?
No, this is from the 6th line.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Okay, Sheila, is that it?
Thank you.
Okay, Carl, go ahead.
Just one further comment. I would support 5/8 because I think the case was made last year that 5/8 tends to pack better. And I think that's where you're coming with that, Jake. So.
Can you add that to your motion, Carl?
Sure.
And Sheila, will you second that? Okay, that's it. No other comments? Call for the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, that motion is approved. Jake, you got the gravel.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item. We are going to move along rather quickly here, I believe. Deputy Mayor Moher with his quick update on county council matters. Go ahead.
Sure, just 2 or 3 points here. The county budget was approved at our last meeting at a rate increase of 2.23 of levy, more than what we took last year. And it was a very streamlined process this year. A finance committee has been formed at the county level, and it seemed to get rid of a lot of back and forth at the end. So very appreciative of that, saving a lot of time. The second thing, as a board member of the Fairhaven Home for the Aged, 98% of Fairhaven residents have now received at least 1 vaccination. So we're very happy with that. And Tammy Crothers, a person that we're familiar with, our service review, is doing extensive work at the county. And at our last meeting also, there's been some reorganizations at the county to provide further efficiencies, and also looking at more looking at the line of not the line of credit, but the span of control. There's changes made in the management levels that should make a more streamlined operation. So that's about it.
Thank you. County is moving in a whole new direction, and everyone feels very good about it. Yeah. Any questions on Carl's report before I ask for a motion to receive it, please? Okay, motion. Councillor Watt and seconded by Councillor Watson. All in favor? That motion is approved. All against? Seeing none. Okay, we move ahead to items 10.2.1 to 0.5, and this is our monthly look at our departmental reports, which staff provide to us. Very much appreciated. It gives everyone a real opportunity to dig down deep and open doors that we don't usually get to open. A motion to receive those reports by Carl.
And I got a couple of questions when it's seconded.
Fine, and Sheila will second it. Go ahead, Carl.
Yes, perhaps through you, maybe Martina cannot answer this, but on the building department, it says overhaul of financial module complete to assist building department permit workflow. Is that was proposed by Brian way back when, that or was that other financial reports that we were streamlining the whole financial operation of the township?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this was a re-implementation of the building permit module in the Diamond software, as recommended by Tammy when she did our service delivery review.
Okay. And the other one, and I think Jake is gone, it has to do with the mesh training. I noticed the GPS installation has been completed. They've had some issues. I trust the mesh training is continuing, and perhaps an update sometime would be appreciated.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can just let council know that now that Chris is fully in his lead hand role, he's taken the lead on training other staff members on that system. So we're being able to do a lot of that training in-house. It just takes time because of the operational needs of the department.
Right. So an update sometime might be appreciated.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Sheila.
Thank you. Through you, I noticed one of the items is sending out planning or letters to do with old permits. Do we have any idea how old some of these old permits are?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure, but I know that every year, if your permit has become stagnant, you do get a letter about it, and some of them do go back quite a few years. So this is not a surprise to some of the people who may have be on their third or fourth letter at this point.
Thank you.
So it's more of a housekeeping type situation that we try to clear up.
That's right. And there is a financial penalty for these stale dated permits as well. So we don't want people to sit on them too long because we don't want to have to charge them additional fees.
Okay, thank you. Motion then is on the floor for the departmental reports. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. We move ahead to bylaws. We've already passed the majority of them. We have one left, and that is bylaw 2021. And that is to extend Martina's role as temporary CAO until Alana starts on the 15th. So we need a CAO in place, and that's what that bylaw is. Carl, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, it's regarding the date of March the 14th. Ilana is going to require overlap. Martina has basically done the function here for 9 months, if not, well, it'll be probably close to a year. And I think it's only fair that that date carry the salary and the title till either 2 weeks, the end of March, or even to the middle of April, is my opinion.
Okay. Martina, how do you feel about that?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it would be very confusing to the public if there were two CAOs listed. And I don't know if the Municipal Act actually allows two CAOs to be listed at the same time. We could bring something back to you on March 16th after we've investigated those. Perhaps we can do a deputy CAO or some other type of title. Yeah. But as council knows, I'm not going anywhere, so I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Could I suggest we leave that to Alana to deal with, if that's okay, Carl?
Yes, let's make it one of her first duties on.
Yeah,
I'm not sure the CAO is a statutory requirement, so I just don't think it's right that.
Okay, we will give direction to Alana to look into the matter then and do the appropriate thing.
Okay, I would move that the bylaw be delayed until after Alana starts.
Till after, I'm sorry, we're confused.
I don't think we can.
We're going to approve this one, I believe.
We're simply approving this bylaw for the date mentioned. If Alana wants to do something else, that'll be her decision.
Okay.
After that. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Tom?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, Carl and Tom, all in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Action items, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, about a consultation of growing the size of the green belt. That'll go over big. Carl?
That came up at our last autonomy conservation meeting. And I think if you read the details and the detailed study behind the ERO, they want to make changes on the west end of the green belt. To the knowledge of everyone involved at the meeting that I attended a week ago, it should not affect the east end of the green belt.
Okay, is anyone making a motion then to?
I would move to receive
or support. Receive?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moher is receiving it. A motion to second that motion. Tom?
Yes, I'll second that motion, and just, it's the west end now, but it could be the east end next time. So I'd rather just support.
We're just
receive, sorry. Support? Just receive, sorry.
That motion's on the floor. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Information items 13.1 to 13.3. We have an AMO land use training bulletin, Kawartha Chamber annual report, County Official Plan Project Focus on Healthy Communities. A motion to receive those items of information. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to interrupt you. Councillor Watson had previously declared a pecuniary interest.
Oh, sorry, on that item. Yep. So for the record, we'll pretend I haven't introduced item 13 yet. Heather, are you going to leave the meeting?
Yes, it was just item 13.2, Your Worship. So if you want to pull that out and handle that matter separately, I mean, I'll
13.1.
lean on the clerk for direction.
13.3 then are up for grabs. A motion to receive those. Tom and Sheila.
And question, Mr. Mayor?
Question, go ahead.
Yes, on the reports we're getting from Brian Weir regarding the official plan, there's a lot of things going on with the planners and so on. And I guess at some point or another, I think we should almost have a special meeting to discuss some of these issues, because if we're thinking that we're going to go to the public here, there's a fair amount of detail on what's being proposed, and a fair amount of more regulations. And I guess things like the growth plan recommends reduction of dependency on automobile and supporting planned transit and active transportation, promoting local food, hydrology features, and so on. And I guess some of these issues, you just say, like, at what cost? Being on Committee of Adjustment and Committee of Planning, in recent months, we're seeing almost every application requiring an environmental study. And some of these things that are being looked at appear to be over the top. And I'm wondering if maybe we should have an update with council members and maybe Committee of Adjustment with the county planners, and just to review and with you, Martina and Brian, who have attended these meetings, to maybe have an update of what's coming down the pipe, because it's a lot easier to change something at the proposal rate than, here it is, and if the public are talking about it. I just fearful of what's happening here. I could be all wrong, but I think at some point it would be helpful to have a special meeting.
I do believe there are a series of public meetings organized over this, but Martina, you probably know more about it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor Moher, you must have been reading my agenda because we actually had a meeting with county planning staff on that exact topic today. There will be some presentations that are specifically for council members. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. Right. They're just being planned right now, and the outlines are being created. So you should see that in the next little while. We're going to do a whole outreach scheme because we know that COVID is really challenging us in how we can reach the public. So there'll be a stream to work with council members, a stream to work with the public, and then to bring the public and council together.
Excellent.
That would be very helpful. I think that's a smart idea to do that before we go to the first public meeting.
So Carl, stop peeking at Martina's agenda, if you would. Okay, that's good. What did we do there, Martina? Did we get a motion for 13.1 and 13.3?
You did. It was moved by Deputy Mayor Moher and
did we vote on it?
Councillor Landsman. There is no vote yet.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. For the record, Councillor Watson will be leaving the screen. She'd leave the room if we were in normal conditions, but she has now left the screen, and that is confirmed by the clerk. This is the annual report by the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce. A motion to receive it, please. Councillor Landsman, Councillor Watt, all in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. If we could invite Councillor Watson back in the room. Okay, thank you. Accounts to February 10th are on the agenda. A motion, please. Councillor Watson, to receive and approve the accounts?
I motion to receive, yes.
And a seconder, please.
Sure, I'll second it.
Councillor Landsman. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Any notices of motion? Any community announcements? Okay, we are going to entertain a notice, or not a notice of motion, but a motion to go into closed session for the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board pursuant to the Municipal Act. A motion to do just that, please. Carl and Heather. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. We are now in closed session. We'll take just a few minutes. Alana?
Would you like me to leave, sir?
I don't think really there is a need for you to leave. You are our CAO now, so I'd rather you stay.
Okay.
So we are still recording. I'm just going to give it a little bit.
Yep, I'm going to just share this screen so that the public knows we are now moving into closed session, and I will pause the recording.
Thank you.